Viewer discretion is advised. So my next major video project's gonna be a while just because I have a lot of recording to do for it.
I'm Michael Jordan. Stop it. Get some help.
Hey, look at that, I actually made another video. You know, it's only like 3, probably more like 4 months late, but hey, you know, at least I made it. That's what counts, right? Right?
No!
Oh, go
Oh no!
f*** yourself. So I believe a bit of explanation is in order here. Initially this video was going to be an analytical video talking about where I think Sonic should go after Sonic Forces, but Sonic Forces is no longer fresh in everybody's mind, so guess this is just going to be another random Sonic fans video.
Oh no!
Maybe Sonic Mania Plus will help boost search engine results. Regardless, in order to make a compelling argument for my thoughts, I decided to play not 1, not 2, not 3, not even 5 Sonic games, but 10 modern 3D Sonic games. And so now we're going to go through and meticulously analyze all 10 of those games because that much torture demands retribution. So to understand why I picked the 10 games that I did, I had 2 major criteria. The first is that it had to be a main series Sonic game. The second is that it had to be developed by actual Sonic team itself. In other words, this is going to be the reason, or if you prefer, excuse, as to why the DIMS created version of Sonic Unleashed is not going to be on here, and why the 2 storybook adventures are not going to be featured either. That and the fact that I really did not want to have to go out and buy those games again. I already completed all 3 of those once. I don't feel like doing it again. Where's Sonic Boom?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Okay, so this is the part of the video where I admit to radically having to change my strategy. So initially this was going to be just one video talking about all 10 of those games. But I got to the point where I got done with the first section, meaning the section going over Sonic Adventure, and I thought to myself, I have about 2.5 minutes of recording, I have 9 more sections to do, and I haven't even gone over everything that I needed to do. So, you know, f*** it, we're just gonna have to do more than one video then. So here's the new layout. We're gonna be doing 3 to 4 videos, tackling groups of the games with each video. The first group is gonna be what I call the golden age of modern Sonic. This will be covering Sonic Adventure 1, 2, and Heroes. The second group will be the dark ages of modern Sonic with Shadow the Hedgehog, Sonic 06, and Unleashed. The final and/or next group will consist of Colors, Generations, Lost Worlds, and Forces. If we can't fit all 4 of those games into a single video, then we'll have the 4th video consist of Forces and my conclusion. Each video will consist of me talking about each game and 4 aspects that I think are important for Sonic going forward. Those 4 aspects being aesthetic, story, gameplay, and controls. One final thing to note here is that I actually got a friend to help me play through almost all 10 of these games, so I thought it might be a good idea to get his opinions about these games in the video as well, as he should have a pretty different perspective than I do on it, meaning we should have a second opinion right in this very video, hopefully. To keep those opinions as genuine as possible, I'm not letting me or my friend hear each other's thoughts on each game. So with that heavily bloated introduction out of the way, let's jump right into this now.
Oh, yeah! This is happening!
I don't think anybody would argue that it'd be fitting to start this exploration into 3D Sonic games with the 3D Sonic game that started it all. The game that arguably set the standard for how all modern 3D Sonic games would play, to the point where Adventure shares some amount of DNA with every modern game that came after it. So how are the aesthetics of the game comparatively?
Watch out! You're gonna crash! Ah! Whoa!
Oh, yes! It's just as the stone tablets predicted.
Two terms: the 90s and early 3D. Unfortunately, Adventure 1 has not aged that well, so graphically speaking, it doesn't look that great by today's standards. And art-wise, it's also a weirdly peculiar choice, as everything actually kind of feels very anime, especially when you look at the NPC human models. So it's got janky graphics and kind of a weird art style, which means as far as aesthetics go, the last thing is tone, which, how did that fare?
Now I have 6 of the Chaos Emeralds. There's only one more left to find. I even found Chaos's missing tail.
You won't get away with this, you madman!
I think this is the one part of Sonic Adventure 1's aesthetics that was done near perfect, as the tone is just serious enough when it needs to be, and just goofy enough when it calls for it. It may not have been perfect, but one thing that I don't think people give Sonic Adventure 1 enough credit for is the fact that they tried to emphasize each character's personality with a different musical styling. Go ahead and take a listen.
Tougher than leather, you can call me Knuckles. Unlike Sonic, I don't chuckle. I'd rather flex my muscles.
I do understand the feelings of a person. This looks so cute. I had to shave it. Hey, big guy!
Hey, little guy!
Can you tell me who came first?
Sorry, but I don't know. We are sick.
The Sonic games have generally been known for their stellar music, and Adventure was no exception. I personally think that has to do with the fact that they pay attention to the small details like this. Sonic Team has always kind of generally treated the music as if it was part of the thing that helps engross the player into the game, and as such, it helps build on the aesthetics. There's honestly not much more to say, but before I finish this section off, some keener eyes in the audience may have noticed that this is not normally what Sonic Adventure will look like, but instead, this is. That's because I played a heavily modified version of Adventure 1. Not only does it add true widescreen support, but it also attempts to restore all of the original Dreamcast texturing. I personally recommend this version if you want to go back and play Adventure 1 anytime soon, and I'll leave a link in the description for how to actually get all the mods that I used. Trying to analyze Sonic Adventure 1's story is difficult, because in the same stroke, it is both confusing and simplistic, and that largely has to do with the fact that each character got their own storyline. I would want to say that this is an upgrade from Sonic 3 and Knuckles, where you could play through the same game 3 times with just 3 different characters, but it really does feel excessive in Adventure 1. This largely has to do with the fact that the game does not juggle 6 storylines very well. There's only 2 storylines I would say are worth playing through in their entirety for the actual story itself. However, I cannot do the same for each of those respective stories' gameplay. The main problem is that 4 of the storylines end up being side stories, and I don't really find 3 of them all that interesting, and even the one I do find kinda compelling is not really gameplay I would suggest experiencing for yourself. Ultimately, the story of Sonic Adventure 1 can be boiled down to evil genius finds an ancient weapon powered by 7 magical MacGuffins, hero embarks on a quest to stop him, and hijinks ensue. It's a very typical video game plot. You've probably seen it, I don't even know how many times. I think you might have even seen it in earlier Sonic games, really. It's kind of sad in a way, because the developers did want to emphasize story in Sonic Adventure 1, and they certainly tried, but they really didn't succeed. The problem is that the main side villain, Chaos, is really not interesting. He's just a generic monster of the week you've seen in like every anime ever. Hell, this concept has been done way more to death in video games than it actually has been in anime, for that matter. The ultimate consequence is that the actual lore surrounding Chaos is more interesting than the character itself. But as any hardcore critic will tell you, lore isn't actually what you want in a good story. I will finish up by saying this. Sonic Adventure 1's story isn't bad, but it's more serviceable than it is anything else. I guess this means we can finally move on to the gameplay then. Being the first fully 3D Sonic game, Sonic Adventure 1 had a lot to live up to, and it tried really hard to live up to that goal. So hard, in fact, that it actually went a little overboard and kind of ended up being bad in an opposite direction. Before we go any further, yes, the Sonic section of Sonic Adventure 1 is fantastic. It's not perfect, obviously, but it is very good. Sonic is fast, the levels are large and spacious, and you don't feel like your momentum really gets slowed all that often. The addition of the homing attack felt like a natural upgrade for Sonic in 3D. Just about everything related to Sonic is fantastic. However, as we all know, this is Sonic Adventure, and there was not just Sonic in it. But I mean, come on, you know, 6 characters is such an upgrade over the last game. It only had 3. I mean, hell, look at Sonic Mania Plus. It's got 5, and apparently that game's the best game in the universe now. And then you play the game. And then you play the big sections. And then you want to die. Look, I'm a pretty big fan of this game, but even I will admit that essentially 3 of these gameplay styles are the same thing, and the other 3 are just really not good. The treasure hunting's the least offensive in this game, which we'll get to that. Meanwhile, there's Big, and did anybody really ask for this? Did anybody really want Big? Obviously not, because after this game, they never brought him back, except in Heroes, and they never brought his gameplay back, for damn sure, because nobody, but nobody, wanted to play that. Or at least that's what I thought I was going to think. In reality, I don't like big stages, but they only took me about a minute to do. With Gammas, they all actually took me around 1 to 2 minutes as well, but I don't know, I was largely indifferent to the last few gameplay styles. No, if there was one person that actually irritated the absolute hell out of me for its gameplay, it was Amy. I'm going to make the argument right now that the other 3 styles in Sonic Adventure were basically kind of the same gameplay loop. I mean, yeah, Tails can fly, but realistically you're still doing speed-based gameplay, whereas Amy seems like it's supposed to be that same speed-based gameplay, but instead they just slow her down to an infuriating crawl and then make you go through this game with a character that can barely ever get any momentum whatsoever and can't jump any amount of significant distance. Fun! This makes Amy's one saving grace that she has very few levels. There is only 3, if I remember correctly, and thank the Lord for that. Okay, deep breaths. I'm going to finish off the gameplay section talking about level design, or more specifically, how Adventure 1 was very lazy with its level design. All of the level layouts are reused for every single character. This means that just about every level is pretty much exclusively designed around Sonic, and then designed in a way to somehow shove the other characters into it. Sometimes this is kind of clever with, like, for example, the big stage, where you don't even notice this one small island being in the Sonic level and then repurposed for Big. Most of the time, however, it's as clunky as it sounds, and it's very obvious that they were just desperately trying to shove characters in a place where they weren't really designed to be initially. So it's time to finish up Sonic Adventure with the controls. Honestly, I'm kind of at a loss here. I'm not sure exactly what to even mention with the controls. It's less that there's nothing to talk about and more of just there's not really enough to talk about. The controls of Sonic Adventure 1 were flawed but functional nonetheless. I mean, they served their purpose for the first 3D game. They definitely needed improvement, but overall, all of the characters have satisfying enough control schemes. Honestly, I think this will be something I go back to later when I need to compare this to the other control schemes of the later games. This means we can officially call Sonic Adventure finished, at least for me. Next up will be my friends' thoughts and opinions of this game, and then after that, we'll move right on to our next game.
So I'm kind of going off of memory on Sonic Adventure, given that I did not play Adventure or Adventure 2 recently with Vox. So I'm going to give my thoughts on what I do remember. As far as the art style, I recall that I thought generally it looked naturally like what Sonic should look in 3D. But man, those facial animations though were legendary. I kind of loved it. As far as tone is concerned, it was kind of all over the place. I know the game tried to be more serious, involving Chaos as a more different type of threat than Eggman, since he sort of becomes silly at this point. I mean, at the same time, you're also spending time in a game with a giant cat fishing for a frog, so overall, it did what it could. I gotta be honest, I don't remember a whole lot of this game's story. I remember that it involved the history of Knuckles, it involved Chaos, it involved time travel at some point. You know, it all culminates in a battle with Super Sonic fighting a giant Chaos at the end. I think that splitting the story into a bunch of characters made it a little bit more difficult to understand, but I think I'll just kind of segue that into what I think about the gameplay styles of it as well. As far as Sonic is concerned, I recall he controlled pretty well, and I thought his stages were pretty well designed. As far as the other characters, kind of remember them being, you know, take it or leave it. I thought Tails was okay. It basically was sort of like a less fun version of Sonic. I know some people are okay with the Knuckles stuff in Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. I kind of find it tedious. I think it suits his character well with the way his gameplay is set up, but it just sucks when you can't find that, you know, final piece. Really frustrating. I think the game has more good than bad, and I recall just generally on a gameplay aspect enjoying it. As far as Amy and Big are concerned, I never really found anything particularly offensive about Amy's gameplay. I think it would have been a lot more fun had she not been chased by a robot, and Big's gameplay is just kind of there. Once you know how to do it, his levels are pathetically easy, but at the same time, what was the purpose behind that? It just sort of felt like it was there to pad out the game. I think overall the game controlled pretty well. I was happy with it. I think that overall I could have done without the hub world. I think when the game finally got to the stages, it was good. It had a good flow to it, but just finding your way to the stages, see, that's a pain. And sadly, it's kind of a aspect that tended to blend into some of the other Sonic games. But yeah, I liked it.
Warning, this is my favorite 3D Sonic game of all time, and playing these 10 games does not change that opinion. I think the best way to look at Sonic Adventure 2 is to look at it as if it was the Sonic 2 to Sonic 1, with Sonic 1 being Sonic Adventure. So in a very shorthand way, it's like Sonic Adventure 1, but it has a lot of improvements over the original first game. However, none of those improvements were aesthetics, because in best case scenario, they basically were the same, and in worst case scenario, they degraded due to trying to go for a more realistic art style. See, the thing is that if Sonic Adventure 1 could kind of be shorthand to, like, the 90s, then Sonic Adventure 2 could basically be shorthand to the 2000s/Edge. Alright, that's not entirely fair. There is one aspect of Sonic Adventure 2's aesthetics. Is there only one? I'm pretty sure there's only one. Anyways, one aspect of Sonic Adventure 2's aesthetics that were changed were level themes. Instead of just having level themes that were just generic grass area, generic ice area, generic fire area, they tried to make every level try to fit in with the story in some way. We're in a city now because Sonic just escaped the military. Now we're in a desert-like area because Eggman's base is in a hidden pyramid. We're in space now because hidden lasers on asteroids, oh my gosh! And when we're talking about themes here really quick, not only am I talking about the fact that each locale was chosen to reflect some bit of the story, but also something that was expanded upon from Sonic Adventure 1 was where Adventure 1 gave each character their own theme. Adventure 2 made it so that each level musical theme was actually reflective of the character's personality. We'll go ahead and take a quick listen to a few of them. This really does help to prove that music is something that can help engross the player into its world. You always know who you're playing as, not only because of the character on screen, but because of the music. That's not to say, however, that there weren't just random level themes. The most guilty of this are both Knuckles and Rouge, and I don't really know why they were there, other than, we need another side story. Because games, I guess?
Who just saved your life?
Saving my life. Don't think I owe you one. You just wanted to hold my hand, didn't you? That's why you saved me. You're such a creep.
Why? Yeah, it's hard to talk about Sonic Adventure 2's aesthetics without immediately devolving into talking about its story, because for the most part, more than Sonic Adventure 1, the aesthetics of 2 was the story. However, unfortunately, that story is just like the dumbest 2000s edgy story, because revenge side plots. So to break this down, the story of Sonic Adventure 2 could basically be summarized as evil genius finds an ancient weapon powered by 7 magical... Wait, what the Did they seriously repeat the same storyline from Sonic Adventure 1? Yes, no, no, yes? I mean, it's not beat for beat the same story as Sonic Adventure 1, but... Alright, I gotta shape up. I'm supposed to like this game. It's very similar to Adventure 1's story, but if one of the negatives to Adventure 1 was that the side villain Chaos was not that interesting, Adventure 2 did try to address that issue with Shadow, trying to give him more complex background and actual character. Gon is juggling 6 different storylines in favor of just telling one story from 2 different perspectives, the heroes and the villains. Essentially, they streamlined what they needed to, and they expanded upon what they thought they needed to. However, this game's story is not without its faults, mainly because...
The ultimate life form, chaos control,
Space calling prayer,
supersonic
collision,
untamed power of chaos,
Professor Gerald, the truth about 50 years ago.
Sonic Adventure 2. Last episode. Wishes are eternal.
It's honestly really hilarious because the story is trying so hard to be both serious and dark that instead it's just convoluted and edgy. Like, I want to say that it was bold that the end of the story involves trying to prevent this space station from crashing into the Earth and, like, utterly annihilating it, but, like, it's already a story that had a giant Death Star laser, so... It's so stupid. It's amazing.
All of you ungrateful humans who took everything away from me will feel my loss and despair.
The ultimate result, unfortunately for Adventure 2's story, is that it's serviceable, but also kind of actually a downgrade from Adventure 1's story. That's okay though, because I don't play Adventure 2 for the story, I play it for... Also, the gameplay. Adventure 2 just tried to take what was already in Adventure 1 and tried to improve upon it. As we already went over, the game was divided into 2 sections, the hero story and the villain story. However, each of those stories had their levels broken up into 3 different types of gameplay styles. This is a massive improvement over Adventure 1, which just tried to find 6 different gameplay styles when it really didn't have enough concepts or ideas to help support it. Instead, Adventure 2 just focuses on 3 gameplay styles. The first one being the Sonic and Shadow speed-based gameplay, which was the Sonic gameplay from Adventure 1. The second one is the Tails and Eggman mech combat stages, which were taken from the Gamma gameplay from Adventure 1. And then the last one is the treasure hunting for Rouge and Knuckles, which was taken straight from Knuckles' treasure hunting in Adventure 1. Now here's the thing I find highly contentious. In recent years, a lot of people have said that only 1/3 of Adventure 2 is good, and that being the Sonic and Shadow levels, which I don't agree with. The Sonic and Shadow levels are good, however, there are merits to the other 2 gameplay styles that people don't really give any credit for. Personally, I'm of the opinion of this. The speed-based gameplay is the best, the mech combat is second best, and still actually a good time if you don't nitpick it as much as people do, and the treasure hunting is the worst. And I do legitimately mean just bad. I hate it. I hate the treasure hunting. We'll get more into that. For right now, we'll break the other 2 down, and then I'll go over the worst one. The speed-based gameplay in Adventure 2 was an overall improvement over Adventure 1's. One of the main reasons for that is actually something that Adventure 2 did overall, which was that every single level was specifically designed for that character in mind. No more levels with massive recycled layouts. Instead, each level is actually designed to be that specific level for that character. And this actually helps with the other gameplay styles. I actually really like the mech combat. I enjoy it a bit, but I can understand that it's not the best thing in the world. But oftentimes, the criticism for it is that it's not Sonic, which isn't a criticism, it's an excuse and a poor argument point. And the other major criticism for the mech combat is that you're going to be hearing this. This is a complete and utter exaggeration of what is truly a minor issue. In the later re-releases of Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2, Sega really messed up their sound mixing, so this does sound louder in later versions. However, in the original GameCube version that most people point to, doesn't exist. Not a problem. And even then, if this is an issue with the later releases, that's not actually the fault of the game specifically, but rather a poor port job. But the last gameplay style, the treasure hunting, was made significantly worse than it was in Adventure 1. Most of the Adventure 1 treasure hunting stages could be completed in about 1 to 3 minutes, but all of the ones in Adventure 2 generally will take you anywhere from 5 to 7 agonizing minutes of torture. One of the major reasons for this is that because levels were specifically designed to be that level and not just recycled from bits and parts of another level, each treasure hunting stage got to be massive as a result because of the level layouts, and the rest of the game are actually really huge because you have to go through them so quickly. Combo that with a new radar that only detects the pieces in a specific order, and you're just in for an absolutely agonizing experience. I'm very disappointed with these levels, specifically because when it comes to pointing out a better example of how these levels could be done, they did that in the same game. The treasure hunting section of the Cannon's Core mission is not actually a treasure hunting section, but more of a giant puzzle solving section that you can get faster at doing the more you do it. What a concept, right? Let's just go ahead and finish up with controls here. Sonic Adventure 2's controls over Sonic Adventure 1 are generally improved. They're less sloppy, less unresponsive, less kind of jittery. It's kind of what you expect from a sequel. They actually made the light dash less dumb and something that I want to use a lot throughout the game, even if it is kind of an autopilot section. But overall, really not a lot to talk about with controls. There's really only one thing that I can honestly think that I want to mention here. Grinding. It was a new mechanic and it was not implemented the greatest. I want to go on record right now saying that the grinding in Adventure 2 was far more physics-based, and I actually kind of prefer that fact. You actually have to balance yourself on the rail to maintain your speed. Crouching down while going down a slope will make you go faster. There was aspects of the original system that are never brought back that I preferred. But then there was switching rails. If you weren't holding a left or right direction and you tried jumping to another rail, you were likely gonna just jump, fall to your doom, or go careening off into the abyss and be very irritated with the lack of just response that you just got from the game, trying to do a very simple task. But that should do it for Adventure 2. Next up is my friend's thoughts and opinion of Adventure 2, and then we'll go to our final game for the video.
Alright, Sonic Adventure 2. I remember this one very well. So in the words of Count Dooku,
I've been looking forward to this.
the game has a very darker, edgier style than Sonic Adventure 1. I kinda love it. It's awesome. I just freaking love my edgy boy here, Shadow. I think the game also introduced Rouge, so, you know, good on you guys, Sega, introducing that sex symbol there. I know that she has some good development, maybe, but yeah, man, this game's a trip. I kinda love it. It's fun. So, I remember this game's story tried to introduce some more realistic stuff like the group of Gun, which, you know, if said group was made nowadays, boy, can you imagine how many people would have something to say about that? But yeah, you know, any game that culminates in a battle fighting a giant satellite with a lizard attached to it that's going to ram itself into the earth is pretty amazing in my book. I know Vox probably won't hear this audio before he puts it into his video. I want you to know that this game is the reason that I got into the Sonic series in general. I just remember that end of the game where you're fighting the final hazard and Live and Learn comes on, and I just was like, yes, this is exactly what I want out of a game. It hit all the right notes with me. As far as the story is concerned, it's cheesy. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I love it. It is what started my love of the Sonic series. I think I'm with a lot of people in the boat where I really feel like the Sonic stages are the most fun parts of the game. But overall, I didn't find the parts with Tails or Eggman to be really bad at all. I mean, they controlled just fine. You know, I feel like jumping around, shooting things, and boosting, it didn't control bad. It felt like it was pretty good. As far as the Knuckles stuff, I've got the same problems I had with them with Sonic Adventure. I think they're the least fun part of the game, and I know there's a couple of special stages involving driving, but they didn't last that long, and I didn't think they were too bad. But I know most recently when I played it, I do know that Sonic's controls are a little bit loose, and the homing attack, it's not perfect. For its time, if you're used to it, I think you can make do with the controls, but I believe if you're a newcomer to this series, you will kind of struggle a bit with how the game plays.
Hey, Fatso! We got your favorite thing! Disappointment!
Sonic Heroes is boring. This game features an amazing downgrade in both aesthetics and story. I love games that have actually worse polygons than the Dreamcast, a musical styling that's bland and repetitive because every single stage was recycled 4 times, and an art style that had to cover everything in neon lights, including the day stages. Oh man, guys, but wait until you get that amazing story of Sonic Heroes' story is nothing. There is nothing there. And I know I just glossed over its aesthetics, but everything had to be downgraded for the PS2, which somehow had worse graphical capabilities than the Dreamcast. Thanks, Sony! I know I'm simplifying everything here, but that seems to be the main beat of Sonic Heroes. See, the main problem with Sonic Heroes is that they designed it for general audiences, so the whole game is bland and repetitive and missing all the heart and soul. I'm not kidding either with the story. There is nothing. The whole story is Eggman tries to conquer the world and Sonic and Co. using
The real superpower of teamwork!
must stop him. At this point, it would be reasonable to wonder why this game is in the golden age of Sonic, and that has to do with the fact that this game is, in all seriousness, just average. There's nothing inherently wrong with it, and there's nothing inherently good about it. This game, at its worst, is needlessly frustratingly tedious, and at its best, it's pretty enjoyable and an example of what you can do with 3D Sonic. Transition into gameplay. Sonic Heroes gameplay may be the main selling point of the game, if only because it might be the only decently good part of the game. However, it's far more subjectively good than objectively good. You're either gonna like the new gameplay style, or you're gonna have your issues with it. And I certainly had my issues with it. Issue numero uno is Sonic is actually too fast and a complete pain to control. The flying characters are boring and situational. You only use them when the game basically twists your arm to. Then there's the power characters. You'll be using them like 90% of the time in-game. Nothing says interesting new gameplay design like a gimmick that's completely shoved down your throat. But hey, when you know you're just going fast, going through the levels, kind of going through obstacles, even doing the flying section, it can be fun. It's a fun gameplay style. But the power characters, I don't know what they were thinking, but terrible is what it was. After all, Sonic Heroes' main claim to fame is that it made me want to play as Big 90% of the time when we do an Amy story. Thanks. To finish up gameplay really quick, I want to go over difficulty. Sonic Heroes set up its difficulty by having each team represent a different type of difficulty challenge. And the hard mode is the Dark Team, which is the only one we're going to really talk about, because they are the worst. They chose the worst way to do difficulty, which was make more enemies and make them have more health. Totally more of a challenge. Finishing up by going into controls here. When developing Sonic Heroes, because the Dreamcast went under, Sonic Team decided to move over to a new engine, that engine being renderware. The chief reason for doing this is so they could have an easy and seamless transition of porting the game to every major console, which didn't happen, not even in the slightest. Sonic Heroes is littered with technical issues and sloppy controls. Nothing in the game in this aspect really feels finished. From what I've heard too, the PS2 and the PC port got the worst treatment out of all of them, which, if true, blows my mind, because there's parts of the GameCube one that are just ungodly awful. I think this is the major thing that hurts Sonic Heroes more than anything else. Because it was the first multi-plat by Sonic Team, they honestly didn't have the experience with working with a multi-plat game, honestly. And instead of trying to refine a concept even further, Sonic Team quizzically decided to try something new to rope in new players, which is just a really terrible idea because you already have an experience with releasing on multiple platforms and you're gonna try something new that you've never done before. I guess it's no wonder why this game got so many 7s. Well, I'm gonna wrap up the video. My friend's thoughts are next, and then I'll see you afterwards.
Alright, so now we're starting to hit the games that I started to not like. As far as this game aesthetically goes, sometimes it's better than Sonic Adventure 2, and sometimes it's worse. I remember the cutscenes, they were just bad, and Tails' voice could not be any more annoying. As far as the just stage layouts and designs, they looked fine. Character models looked okay, but man, there were just a few things like that voice just nails on a chalkboard. And when you're jumping and you get to hear him go wee 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 wee, oh, it's awesome.
Let's go! Let's go! Let's go!
So the story, also known as, well, we really didn't know how to make the game long enough, so we're just gonna make you beat the game 4 times and loosely connect it with Metal Sonic was behind it all at the end. Yeah. Not the best. In fact, I think the game would have been better had you just given me a choice on which group of people I wanted to play through the game. It would have, made the game feel a little bit more fresh, and by that 4th playthrough, I wouldn't want to freaking kill myself. I kind of get what they were trying for in the gameplay mechanics here. I think they realized that people complained about having to switch between characters and, Sonic Adventure and Adventure 2, and it just being a completely different gameplay style, so they thought, as a great idea, well, why don't we just put all the gameplay styles into one, and you just get to switch between them at will? Well, until the game makes it mandatory to play as a certain character. And let me tell you, whoever thought of the robot that has like the health bar of 30 or whatever, where you just have to keep jumping as Knuckles and just smashing your teammates into them until they get like frickin' brainal hemorrhages, or if that's even a frickin' thing. Oh my god. I know you probably don't work for Sega anymore, but just please punch yourself in the face for me. Thanks. The game, when it's going fast, it can be just fine, but man, when it slows down, it's just really bad. Ugh, that frickin' Egg Emperor fight, ugh, if you designed that, please punch yourself too. As far as the way this game controls, it really can vary. I remember so many times where you'd attempt to do Sonic's tornado attack and instead you just throw yourself off the ledge. It really suffered from packing way too many mechanics at once, and you would try to do one thing and you would just do the exact opposite of it. I mean, the team blasts were really a crapshoot. If your team Rose or Team Chaotix, your team blast is amazing and can almost break the game for you. If you're Team Dark, your team blast makes the game really annoying unless it's the final battle of the game and it finally gets to be useful once ever. And as far as, the controls getting in the way, man, let me reiterate that Egg Emperor fight, because I remember the 2 of us died many a time on that. I would really hate to see a death counter of how many times we actually died there.
What? Oh, fine, here's your stupid death counter. Okay, the video's over. You can go ahead and click away right now if you want to, or skip to the last 20 seconds to get a video recommendation. I just want to address some things since the channel's been inactive for so long. I'm sorry to anybody who was seriously subscribed and like really wanting to see what would come out next, because this took so long. I'm really sorry for that. Sorry to those who got a private screening of the video and might still notice some issues or errors that I probably could have fixed. I got to the point where it was just like, I felt it was so overdue that I just needed to get something out. To my friend who helped me make this video, I hope this came out the way you wanted or liked it. I hope I didn't really chop up or ruin some of the bits that you wanted to go over. And finally, to all of those who stuck out this video so long, considering that most YouTube audience have the attention span of a gnat, thank you so much for watching this video, especially for this long. I really do appreciate it. Whenever I get it finished, the second video in this series will be on the left, and on the right will be probably some other video that's not Sonic related on my channel. Right now, it'll probably just be my most popular video. And seriously, once again, thank you so much for watching this video.